Hello guys, and welcome back to the Bleed Norwich YouTube channel for this special quadcast. We are joined by two-time championship winner, ex-Canary captain with over 100 appearances for the club, Christoph Zimmermann. Welcome, Christoph.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's perfect having you on, Christoph. Obviously, such a big player for Norwich. How are you today, mate?
Um, it's a question I've been asked many times, and I always say everything's good despite the knee. But yeah, no, life's good. I'm happy. I mean, I'm blessed with everything that I've got. So it would be nice if I would have played a bit more this season. But other than that, I can really not complain.
Of course. I think we'll start at the start of your career, Christoph. Obviously, came through the ranks of Borussia Mönchengladbach. How was that for you?
Well, growing up in Düsseldorf, obviously the biggest club over there is Fortuna in the city. But I never decided to change clubs and to play for Fortuna. And Mönchengladbach was a bit, even though it's just half an hour away, but it was something huge for every player. And as soon as I heard from my hometown club, I could get a move to Mönchengladbach. This was a massive change for me, obviously, and a bit scary as well, but it turned out to be a very good time for me. I spent 6 years in the academy and then 2 years with the 23s. And I enjoyed those 8 years. I think they really sort of paved my way towards professional football and professionalism. And I think a lot of those basic criteria and um, important attributes have been built in that time because I was 13 at the time. It can be a very difficult age, and I've had friends who played well in their hometown club, but then they didn't get the move to a bigger club. So their ways turned out to be different. But for me, it was then from age 13, always professional, always 5, 6 times per week football, and given the facilities that have been on a very high standard and a good level, I think I couldn't have asked for a better club to start my professional academy career there.
Yeah, and then obviously going on from your academy career, you joined Borussia Dortmund in 2014.
Yeah,
How was that?
yeah. I mean, there had been like for me the real motivation was Mönchengladbach under 23s. They played in the fourth division in the
Yeah.
Regionalliga West, and Dortmund at the time were in the third league, and obviously having the chance to play one league higher was something that I was really keen to take. And I assumed, okay, I played 2 years in the fourth division. Now I have a 2 year contract in the third division, and let's see where my career could go and how it could progress. So that was the initial plan and the idea. Turned out a bit differently because we got relegated after just one season. But the simple experience of just leaving my parents and moving out from home, I think it was a maturing process. And I think not just from the football perspective, but also personally, that has been very important.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, you were coached by Daniel Farke, who obviously did bring over to Norwich later on at Borussia Dortmund. What was Daniel Farke like even back then?
I have to say he hasn't changed his ways much from what I can say. His time in Dortmund, but also then in Norwich, he always believed in his ideas and his philosophy. He has a clear image of what his game should look like, and he has the same methods back there in or coaching an under 23 side just in the fourth division, but also then when he came to England and obviously coaching a championship and then a Premier League side, he hasn't changed his ways in terms of his approach, the length and the intensity of the session. Because I kept thinking, okay, he's able to do that and to really implant his ideas onto young squads who's willing to follow. But when you have experienced players and players who've already played in the Premier League, I think there could be more resistance because it's not for everyone his style of training and his style of play because it is hard work and long hours on the pitch and also tactical sessions that demands a lot of he demands a lot from his players. But he's been able to do the same thing in Norwich and do it very successfully, and now obviously with Leeds as well, where he just won promotion.
Yeah, of course. And obviously, moving on from the fourth division of German football, you've jumped up to the second division of English football. Talk us through sort of that whole process, because obviously I think there was some sort of rumours that you were very close to leaving football in as a whole and going into teaching.
Yeah, during my last year in Dortmund, I decided that I would like to start studying as well. So I had already been studying for about a year when the opportunity with Norwich came along. And first of all, in the summer of 2017, my contract at Dortmund expired. Um, One thought was, okay, do I quit playing football and focus on my studies? But I wasn't quite able at the age of 20, 24 back then to do it, because after having spent 8 years with Mönchengladbach and 3 years with Dortmund, you feel this can't be the end. There should be more to come. So I was close to actually signing for a Danish side, but they unfortunately got relegated from the first to the second Danish division. Had already been over, had a look around, and this was the best option for me. And on the Sunday, which was followed by the week where I had to give my decision to the Danish side, I got a text message from Daniel Farke asking if I'd still be free or if I'd already signed somewhere else, because he knew about my plans with Denmark. We'd been in contact, but until then there was not really an opportunity for him to say that he wanted me to join Norwich as well. But then this opportunity came up, it opened up, and then it all went very quickly. I think from his message on that very Sunday night to me flying over for the medical signing, and then leaving Germany for good, or well, at least for 5 years. It was, I think, less than 2 weeks. So that all went very, very quickly, and I think I was quite happy it went that quickly, and it was a no-brainer, because when you're presented the opportunity to come from the fourth division in Germany to become a member of the playing squad at a championship side, and also a championship side that has history in the Premier League, it's an opportunity you get once in your lifetime, and you just have to take it. And obviously, at the start, I wouldn't have imagined that I would last 5 years. We would be that successful, and also that I would come to a city and a county and just to a community and people who are just so friendly, and where it's so easy and nice to settle in to live. That was all a bonus, obviously, but at the start, you're looking at championship side, you get the opportunity to play in the motherland of football. Coming from the fourth tier in Germany, there's absolutely no chance you're turning that down. So I was just hoping and praying at the medical that everything's good, because I never had such a long and intense medical, but it was all good. It all went through, and I was very, very happy to sign for Norwich.
Yeah, so you touched on there that Daniel Farke sent you a message. What was going through your mind when you received that?
Well, I remember I was at home with my parents. I sat on the sofa and we were talking, and all of a sudden, like, I look at my phone because the message pops up, and I start smiling. And they're saying, "Okay, what's going on?" And I said, "You wouldn't believe who just texted me." And then this is sort of I had the conversation with my parents right away, which made it like just more realistic, being able to talk about it straight away. And when I get a bit more, or when he got a bit more in depth about the situation at Norwich, and that there could be an opportunity, and that he probably need 3 or 4 days to see if the position that they were still looking to fill, if I was a good fit for that. But then apparently him and Stuart discussed the topic, and Stuart once told me then that he already knew about me from his time at Huddersfield with David Wagner. So I was then just glad that they in the end decided to go for me and to give me the opportunity, because if I had to pick two people who had the biggest influence on my career, it would definitely be Daniel Farke and Stuart Webber. At the start, it was a bit surreal, but like the more contact we had, the more the chat went on, the more realistic it seemed, and then you're just sitting there on your sofa, on your parents' sofa, to be honest, and you just want more information. You just want to progress any further, because it's just so exciting to be presented an opportunity like that.
Of course. And then obviously you joined Norwich City, and those first few weeks must have been just crazy to sort of take everything in. How was that pre-season for you?
As I said, it went very quickly. I think 3 or 4 days before preseason started, I flew over with my girlfriend at that time, and we it was strange because she had a return ticket and I just had a one-way ticket. And well, luckily, it all worked out very easily. Like we had a couple of days to sort of get to know the city and get to know the training ground and meet with Lithgow to check for a flat to live, so we could sort a couple of things prior to me moving over. And then obviously, it's still all a bit surreal when you come there and you just within 5 days sort of packed all your stuff in Germany and basically emigrated. Because normally, if before that, when you were abroad, it was for holiday and you knew I'm coming back in 1, 2, 3 weeks time. But this time I had a 2-year deal, and I thought, okay, at least until winter I'll be there, and then probably longer and longer and longer. And it's a bit, it can be scary because it's sort of a jump into the unknown. But then again, England is an hour flight. It's not out of the world. And I think what helped me the most was that I knew the coaching staff, that they were German. So you sort of have people to relate to straight away. And then as soon as preseason started, those 3, 4 days later, you're training that much. You spend so much time at the training ground. You get to know your teammates, and it just makes it very easy to settle in. On the one hand, with the teammates I had, but also when you're in a sporting environment, when you're playing sports, especially in football, because everyone knows the situation. Everyone's been new to a club once, and most of the time, the players are trying to make it very easy for you to settle in, because everyone knows when you feel happy, when you feel welcome, then you're most likely to play your best football, and then everyone will profit from it. But yeah, it's gone quickly, and I can't believe it's already 8 years ago.
Yeah, it's a crazy long time ago, because for us, me and Alex, we went home and away through when we were like 17, 18, when you first joined the club, and to us that only seems like yesterday. But somehow we're in our mid-20s now, and it's 7, 8 years ago. It's crazy for us to think that as well. But obviously going into that first season, obviously we finished mid-table. It obviously was very much a transition season at that point.
Yeah.
But there were some big moments as well. Obviously, you played your first East Anglian derby, which
Won it.
yeah, won it as well. There we go. What was that feeling like?
Yeah, I think as soon as I signed, one of the first things my father sent me was East Anglian derby. Ipswich are the rival. Make sure you beat them. That was one of the first things I learned when I signed for Norwich. So it was away from home as well. So you feel like we hadn't been in a great position at that time in the league. So we've been sort of in between. I mean, we had a mixed season all the way through. It wasn't like at the start we were pushing for promotion, or at the start we were fighting relegation. We were always sort of in no man's land, to be honest. But then having those sort of 2 highlight games against Ipswich, it's hard to explain, or it's hard to put in words, but you can always sense the week before derby, it's a different tension, it's different focus in training and in the whole training ground. And then being able to win away from home. And then I know it was a quick turnaround. We couldn't really enjoy it too much because it was on a Sunday lunchtime kickoff, and then we were driving home on the coach, recovery, Monday training, and travel to London because we played Arsenal in the cup just 2 days later. So there was 2 standout moments for me, winning my first East Anglian derby, and then two days later playing at Emirates in front of, I don't know, 50,000 people. When in the back of your head, just 5 months ago, I played in the 4th tier in Germany, and it was probably 300 people watching, and most of them were agents or parents. So it was those 2, 3 days were crazy, but great feelings.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
that
because
must have been a big step up for you from playing in the fourth tier to then coming over and playing in the second tier of English football and then going on to play cup games against the likes of Arsenal and Chelsea.
Yeah, it's this turnaround has been very, very quickly. Also, our first game in the championship season was Fulham away. We managed at the end to get promoted to the playoffs. And I thought, okay, if this is the standard, then I'll, I'll be in trouble because Fulham were good that game. We got away with a draw, but their wingers, their attacking players, they've been good. So it was really, really tough to defend them. And to me, that was the toughest game I played. I had no idea about the intensity in the championship before. You just know it's relentless and it's not too tactical, but it goes forward and back and forward and back. And it's but then having the experience to play also away from home in the first game against Fulham, obviously a side currently in the Premier League, who also at that time had a lot of Premier League experience or Premier League past, was it felt like okay, you get thrown in the cold water, but it's good you had that start. It's not. I think sometimes you just got to do it straight away and set the tone straight away. It's either than thinking, okay, we need to build our ways up, slowly, 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 because I think you learn the most when you just play against the best players. And in that first season, I think all of us, you mentioned the transition, we had lot of new players, also a lot of players who played in England for the first time in their careers. And we had to adapt, definitely had to adapt. And there were games where we weren't outclassed from the result, but we felt physically seeing, okay, what can you get away with in terms of headers? How much can you help yourself? I don't know, some things that may be illegal in Germany, but in England, especially in the championship, the ref just no, harden up, play on. So I think you learn a lot in this year, and I think we did learn a lot, and then we made a lot better in the second season.
yeah, absolutely. And obviously you also played with some fantastic footballers, even in that first season, the likes of Wesley Hoolahan, James Maddison. Um, how key was it to have sort of those key players in your side with that sort of technical ability and sort of being able to win a game sometimes by themselves, especially in James Maddison's case sometimes. How key was it?
I mean, we also, I think the season before I signed, also Pritch and Nelson had a very good link up play and interacted very well with each other on the pitch. And then obviously in the season with Farke, that did change a little bit. But I remember a couple of games where I think it was Leeds away. Our front four was Nelson, Meadows, Pritchard, and Josh Murphy. I mean,
Yes.
there's that's quality. That's quality there. You have to say, and also just a couple of other like Cameron Jerome, Russell Martin, where you just players that you look up to because you know where they've been. You know they've won a playoff final. The probably it's called the richest game in football. So there's presumably most pressure on those players, knowing this one game decides so much for our club. Also, like in terms of future, um, about which way the club's probably going and how the club can set up for the next couple of years. So, and having playing along players who've been able to resist to that pressure and perform in those games is something that you can just that you're thankful to have because you can learn a lot from those players about how to present in those games. And yeah, obviously, every now and then, sometimes they just show their quality on the pitch and they score one or two goals and you win the game, and more or less because of them, thanks to them. And then all you have to do at the back is do your job and defend. Yeah, that's does obviously help because we did also in that first season we did have a lot of quality, probably even more than the second to be fair. But in the second, it just came together, it clicked, and then well, we've shown what Farkas football should look like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and obviously in that first season, we spoke about some of the highlights. Obviously, the key players that you've played with, and the wins against Ipswich, and the last minute draw for as well. But obviously there was a few down points as well. Just some that I can remember off the top of my head. Obviously Millwall away, we lost 4-0 right at the start of the season,
Yeah.
and QPR away later on in the season where we lost 4-1.
1-1.
Um, Yeah, what was sort of like the dressing room after those results? What was it like?
Um, Millwall, I remember it was. I think hardly anyone spoke a word when we came back in. Um, I think one player. It's not that I don't want to name names, but I think one player then sort of when it was so quiet had an outburst and sort of was trying to wake us up because it just can't happen that you're losing 4-0 away to Melbourne. And I think it was also right before the first international break. So you have 2 weeks now where you can't fix it. Because normally when you're playing week in, week out, or you play in midweek as well, you get the opportunity 3 days later to fix it and to get a result. But we had to wait for 2 weeks. And I think then we beat Middlesbrough 1 at home. So at least we managed to turn it around a little bit. But it was, you sit there, it's sort of disbelief, and you feel, okay, how do you, or where do we go from here? What does the club do? Do they think, oh, 4-0 away at Millwall is unacceptable? And obviously, at that point, I've been with Norwich for 3 months, and I didn't know, okay, how quickly would the board probably take a decision and think, okay, is this the wrong path with the German regime? And there's a lot of thoughts going through your minds, but luckily they kept their calm and believed in the process. Then obviously we had that 1-4 away at QPR, which was just a horrendous second half. I think we even taken the lead in that game, and then I think the season closed with another disappointment where we lost 5-1 away to Sheffield Wednesday, and that was another point where you're then going into into the summer break, and again you can't fix it. The last impression was a 5-1 loss away to Sheffield Wednesday. Ipswich managed to overtake us in the table, so we finished below them. So it was, I think we finished the season on a low, but probably that was one of the things that helped us to regroup and focus and to know what feelings after the games we don't want to have and what we're putting the effort and the work in for. And luckily that then paid off.
Yeah, so then we kind of go into your second season with us, for the 18-19 season. Kind of didn't get off to the greatest of starts, and then it kicked off from the middle of the season.
Yeah, we didn't start well. That's true. I think we had 5 points from 6 games, and just before the first international break, we managed to get a draw away at Portman Road. And if I think if we'd lost that game, things could have been different as well. But again, we luckily Stuart and the club believed in Farke and believed in the team and in the way we were going. Because I heard there were not just a couple of people who were thinking, okay, that's it, it's the end, it's the end of that experiment. We need to change things, and we need to change them now. But we've all been given a second or a third chance then, and then after the break, we've been able to turn it around. I think we went on a spell of 10 games with 8 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss, something like that. And all of a sudden, within 2 months, we climbed the table from 17th or 19th up to first place. And then after the third international break, where we just before the break won 4-3 against Millwall, and I think probably West Brom had dropped points, or I don't know which was the other team that was together on top. I think probably Leeds dropped points at West Brom. That was probably how it went and how it worked. And then all of a sudden, within this space of 2 months, you find yourself on top of the table in the November international break, and we've luckily been able to turn around and to find a rhythm, because as soon as you're successful in that setup and with that philosophy, everyone buys into it. Because as I mentioned, it is hard work, it's long hours, but when you're successful, you're thinking, oh, that's why we're good. That's what we're doing it for. But when you're not successful, you're thinking, we're doing that much, we're still not winning games. Why are we not doing less? I mean, it can't be worse than losing games. So it's good to see when it all comes together, when it all pays off, and when everyone then buys into the philosophy. And I think you could then sometimes just see there was sort of blind connection on the pitch between especially Stipe, Emi, and Temu. I think it was so hard for all the opposition's defense to try to get control of us, and hardly anyone was able to do so.
Yeah, I think that Ipswich game was sort of like the turning point. especially for fans as well. I think we just after that draw, like you say, we went on this unbelievable run, and everyone, even the fans, all the spectators were just buying in to Daniel Farke's philosophy and the team that he'd built. Because we signed Timu Puki in that summer and Emi Buendia, and I don't think any Norwich fan can say that they'd heard much about them prior to them signing. So it was all very new, and they turned in. Everyone in that team turned into some of the best Championship players that any Norwich fan has seen in their lifetime. I think I can say that for sure. And there must be so many good memories from that season for you, Christoph. Obviously, you captained the side for a long chunk of the season. And obviously, some of the results there, you had Leeds away, Nottingham Forest at home, Ipswich at home, Millwall at home. There's so many to tick off.
Yeah, I think we had a lot of dramatic last minute wins as well. Bolton was also 2-0 up. It all looked, it's business as usual. 2-0 up, should win the game. 2-2, and then 93rd minute, another Teemu Pukki classic where he saves the day. Yeah, Millwall was similar, but I think Millwall was the craziest game so far. So many ups and downs in that game, and again, like when you turned the game and we were leading 2-1, we were thinking, okay, here we go, this is how we do it. And all of a sudden, within 3 minutes, they scored twice, and you're thinking we could actually lose this game, which was never in our minds. But then I think in that very season, we just couldn't accept defeat, and we just tried everything not to leave the pitch losing the game. There've been a couple of highlights, obviously at Ipswich at home as well. But it wasn't as easy as it looked on paper. Then I think we were top of the table, and Ipswich was bottom of the table, and it was a 3-0 in the end. But it was still hard work because a derby is never easy. But then going away from this game, 3 points, I think was the week before Leeds away as well. So you just go into that Leeds game Saturday night, Elland Road away, with a very good feeling. And then I think latest when we've beaten them away 3-1, where I think it's such a mature and solid performance. Everyone was thinking, okay, this can't be coincidence anymore that Norwich is still on top. Everyone was actually thinking, okay, this side will challenge for promotion, and this side is good because I think the one thing that everyone was a bit curious probably about was our fairly young back four. For I think at least the second half of the season was Max Aarons, myself, Ben Godfrey, and Jamal Lewis. And I think I was the oldest one by far, 26 years of age, 25 and then 26 years of age. So we were quite unexperienced, but we somehow found our way, and it didn't matter who we played. We always did our job, and we knew going forward we have so much quality and creativity that even if we concede one, we can always score 2 or 3 goals. And just having this assurance in your mind that even could be a deflected shot 10 minutes into the game and you're 1-0 down. And we had a couple of those. Rotherham at home, 1-0 down, we turned the game and it went 1-3-1, for example. Where you just know, okay, even if something happens that's probably not in the script, we can react and we will react. And I think that's what we've always done. And then, obviously, you mentioned Nottingham at home. Mario scored the equalizer 97th minutes, or another one was that was O'Neill. Sorry, Forrest was O'Neill, and Mario, Sheffield Wednesday game with his free kick, 98th minute. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm still every now and then I watch the highlights of our late goals. It gets recommended on YouTube for me on the telly, and then I find myself enjoying those videos, sitting on the sofa and sometimes just memorizing the good old days.
Yeah, so obviously you become captain during that season and become a fan favourite. And having 27,000 people chant your name, how did that feel for you?
It's a feeling that you wouldn't want to miss. And having the support, feeling the support, or whenever. England is a bit different to Germany. Then I think in Germany, sort of the supporters are always chanting. Some are always singing the chant, and most of the time it's a team chant. Whereas in England, sometimes it gets a bit quiet and then it gets really loud and it's sort of a bit more up and down. But also when you're having a good action, when I don't know, had a good tackle or I don't know, sometimes just booted the ball out of the stands, but everyone was happy about it. The supporters start screaming your name, and that's something that you do notice. And sometimes it was even the case where, yeah, that was good, and then you just waited for the noise, waiting for your chance to come, and it just gives you that extra bit of motivation and just makes you feel good. When you feel good, you play good. It's very easy. And also, you mentioned me wearing the armband. I think that was for the last 18 games. I think it was 18 games of the season that I wore the armband, and I always enjoyed. I always enjoyed it. Starting with the captain's meeting beforehand, and then obviously leading your team, guiding your team onto the pitch. There's nothing better than it. To me, it's nothing better than it. To be the first one walking out. It's a night game. The floodlights are on, and you're leading your team on the pitch. And especially then, when you've done your job and you've been a proper captain and you've helped guiding your team to a successful game and to a win, it's very rewarding, and nothing compares to it.
Yeah, and obviously, yeah, such a fantastic season. You lifted a championship trophy at the end of the season, winning the league. What was that feeling like? That must have been incredible.
During the season, you can just sense you got something special, and you can sense, oh, probably we could really do it. But then when it finally comes to it, it's still surreal because you just managed to win promotion to be then allowed to play in the best league in the world. And given my CV, definitely, it's something that has never been in the script for me. And then being so close to doing it, and I remember the final was a bit more than the last minutes of the Blackburn game, where you can just tell 3 minutes added on, where at least in the third minute of that injury time, with 2-1 up, even we could afford to still concede one, which won't happen. But even if we did, we won't concede a second. So the game's still going, but you know you're there, you know you've done it. That's a great feeling. And then especially the final whistle against Blackburn, and just sensing and feeling and hearing the stadium explodes out of noise, and having that in a night game is absolutely fantastic. It's one of my favorite memories of my playing days. And then lifting the trophy at Villa Park was the cherry on top, or
Yeah,
the ice.
that's it. Yeah, both of them are saying.
Because you know you've done your job, you know you're there, you know you're promoted, but then also being able to finish it in style. And I mean, as to beat Aston Villa away from home is not an easy thing to do. And then in that being in that massive ground, lifting the trophy, and knowing as Norwich City, you've just made history and won the league, has been absolutely fantastic. And I have to say, before that game at Villa Park, Grant Henley came to me in the hotel, and he mentioned to me, because he was the club captain.
Yeah,
I was the captain at the time because he wasn't playing that much. But he came to me and he told me, when we win the league today, I want us to lift the trophy together. And that was something that I felt just showed his personality and what a team player and a character he is, because it would have been the easiest thing for him to say, I'm the club captain, I get the trophy, I'm the one holding the trophy and lifting it. But having a Scottish international, the club captain, coming up to you before that game, and having this thought in his mind that he thinks, okay, no, we're doing this together, we're lifting the trophy together, was also one of the biggest moments I've experienced, that didn't happen on the pitch, but that happened off it just 2 to 3 hours before a game. And that was something that just showed his character and how unselfish he's been, and how he always put the team first. And this is something I think that can't find enough praise. And I was just, obviously the moments we had on the pitch, but also those personal experiences and encounters have just been next to none. And we had a lot of them in this season, and they will forever live in my memory. And that's just something I'm entirely grateful for.
I just want to touch on one other thing from that season, Christoph, and it's probably I still think it's the loudest I've ever heard Carrow Road, and it was your goal against Reading. Um, Obviously, we did end up drawing 2-2, but your header to it was to make it 2-1 to Norwich at the time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Um,
crazy.
yeah, I gotta admit, I've watched that back a couple of times as well because it's my last goal, the last goal I scored, and it's been a while. Yeah, I think just knowing about the importance of that game, we were 1-0 down for a long time, and then Godfrey equalised 86th minute, and just 2 minutes later, Kenny's corner kick came in, and I just made good contact with the ball, and it went in. That was also. It's sometimes you're standing on the pitch, you know what just happened, and even though it's so loud, I feel I can't hear a thing. I feel there's no noise, and it's just like you're in a movie, or like it's hard to say, or like you're in a movie, but you're sort of a spectator in there, and you're not really taking part in it. That's how sometimes I was luckily able to absorb that emotion, because it's moments like this that really stick in your mind. And yeah, it was one of the two goals I scored in the league. The other one was Millwall away, which was also a header, which was a good goal, an important one. But that one at home, in front of the home supporters, I mean, if we'd won the game, it would have been even better. But luckily, those 2 points we dropped didn't make too much of a difference in the end.
Yeah, so going on to the Premier League, obviously you've gone through sort of a meteoric rise here from fourth division of German football to the top division of English football.
Yeah.
Going into that Liverpool game, what was the feeling like?
Um, well, I just played obviously the Liverpool the home game. I regret so much that I was injured for the first
Yeah.
game of the season, because when
West
you
Ham, wasn't it? Was West Ham's first appearance? Yeah.
yeah, West Ham was my first, because I missed the first 3 games of the season with a knee injury.
yeah,
And I remember when the schedule came out and said, okay, Friday night Premier League opener, Liverpool against Norwich. You just think, okay, this game you have to play. And then just at the start of pre-season, obviously I've done something to my meniscus, which kept me out for 6, 7 weeks. That was a big blow, and I think that was also I struggled. I struggled with the fact that I knew I wasn't going to be able to play that first game, because when you've played in the fourth tier for 4 years and you play all those, with all the respect, not so nice games, especially during the time when I studied, and you sit in university. You come into the training ground, you travel in. It's a Wednesday night. You've got traffic. It's, I don't know, 2 hour drive somewhere. You play there at night. You come back late at night, and the next morning you go up to go to university. You play all those games, and then you have Liverpool away, Premier League season opener. You feel this is the one that I want to play, and then you miss it. That was tough to take. But then a couple of weeks later, obviously West Ham away, sort of my Premier League journey started. Unfortunately, with a tackle on my right foot that then again kept me out for 2.5 months. So when that happened, and then you get the diagnosis, oh, it's a 12-week injury. You struggle a bit, and you doubt yourself, because you think things happen for a reason. So you feel, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong for this to happen? Because surely it can't be right for you to try to work your way up through the leagues, climb up through the leagues, and then before you know it, in your first and maybe only Premier League season, it's November, December time, and you've played 35 minutes away at West Ham, and you've been out of 2 long-term injuries. So as nice as it was to manage to win promotion, as hard was it to be sidelined for that long. But I think in that time also happened another memorable experience when we beat Man City at home. So I've been able to witness it from the stands, and to see what it must have been like for the supporters, and to feel the atmosphere and the energy, because you could just sense the energy. As, like latest at the start of the second half when we made it 3-1, and you could tell, okay, everyone started believing it, because when we were 1-0 up, 2-0 up, and then when it was 2-1, everyone was thinking, okay, Man City are going to come, and probably it's going to end up 2-4, 2-5. But then as soon as we scored the 3-1, everyone you could tell something changed. Something changed at Perth, something changed in the crowd, and there was all of a sudden there wasn't just excitement, but there was actually belief we were able to win that game. And then the final whistle there was also a very noisy moment.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
I think that game was sort of. I think for me and Alex especially, that season was obviously that game was the absolute highlight. And
Yeah, definitely one of the highlights of the season was beating Man City at home. Like that
because
was
we had a whole list of injuries as well. I can remember obviously yourself
yeah, it was
you were
like
injured as well.
yourself.
Yeah.
We basically had like a second string team out for that game, and we went and won it somehow.
And if I'm really honest, I remember driving to that game, or my wife drove me to the game because I was still on crutches. And I didn't say it, but in my head, I thought, okay, I hope it's not going to be like a 7-8-0 to Man City, because I thought, given the injury list we had,
Yeah,
this could end really badly. But then seeing how the team performed, how they stuck together, how everyone stepped up and just played, overperformed, was was unreal. And I think just a lot of things came together that day, and we were able to do what I think no one thought was possible.
yeah. I think we were that injured that we had to start Alex Tettey at centre back.
It was something like that. Something like that. I think I've seen in one of the newspapers. There was a predicted lineup for the Man City game, and it said, oh, it's actually a decent lineup. It's just a shame all of them are injured. So we must have at least had 11 players out injured.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that was the list in the end. Obviously, that
yeah.
Premier League season was a very strange one. Obviously, we did get relegated, but a lot happened in between. Obviously, I think another very very memorable night just before lockdown hit and fans couldn't go to football games. We had Tottenham Hotspur away in the FA Cup. What a night that was!
Yeah, I think also the odds had not really been on us in that game. But then we equalized 10 minutes before the end, survived extra time and won on penalties. I think we did have a fairly good run in that FA Cup season anyway. And also, as you mentioned, then you go into lockdown, and then things it's just an unknown. No one knows what's going to happen, if the season's going to continue, if it just stops. So it's been really strange then, and also you feel, as I just mentioned with Norwich, you never quite know how long you're going to be in the Premier League for, and if this could be your only season, you want it to be a proper Premier League season and not one where you just playing without support. So that there were, I think, the weirdest ideas, getting all the teams together in one resort and let them play against each other, or just play in neutral venues. A bit like I think what's been done in America, where they played at Disneyland and just get all the teams together. So I think there have been a couple of ideas, and we feel we want to have a proper Premier League season, and we want to play also the big sides away in a full stadium. You want the whole package, because that's what you sort of qualified for by winning promotion. Yeah, so it's been definitely a season of mixed feelings, and then at the end, with you have to say deserved relegation, because we've been way too far of place 17.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, but it was sort of that run during lockdown that it was just it wasn't it was really bad, wasn't it? And I think it was just probably down to the fact that there's no fans in the stadium. It's a completely sort of different environment for everyone involved. But leading into lockdown, I think we were on a we were on an all right run. I think it was obviously Spurs away. I think just before that we had Leicester at home, which we won.
Yeah, Sheffield United away as well.
Yeah, that was a loss, but I think we could have seen a different outcome had lockdown not hit us.
I think it would have at least been closer, because I think after lockdown we probably had 1 point from 10 games or so.
Yeah.
We hardly managed to pick up any more points. I think this sort of underlines the importance of supporters, because maybe in those games you've seen that we had the worst quality, like individual quality, compared to all the other Premier League sides. And when then you don't have the support from the stands, some things are just not possible. You would, or I would theoretically say, when it's just one football pitch and no one around, and you play 11 against 11, it's most likely the side with the better quality just wins. But when then there comes like a certain intimidation that sometimes a stadium just carries by itself, that sometimes the supporters create, and this also plays a role in the opposition's mind. And like when, for example, we have been unbeaten at home for a long time, the away sides travel to Norwich and they are good. They haven't lost at home in 10 games. This all comes together. And then you score an early goal and you just get the crowd going, and you can just roll sides over by the support of your supporters as well. And I think, in all honesty, I think it's fair to say that without the supporters, the 3-2 against Man City would have not happened. I think this during lockdown would have probably, or could have ended like the last game of the season where we lost away to Man City 5-0. This is the way things could normally go, but then we can change the odds. We can change the normality with the help of the supporters, and we really missed that during lockdown.
Yeah, and during lockdown, obviously we played Man United in the cup, but took them to extra time. Did you think that we could go further?
Yeah, I thought especially if we were able to make 2 penalties. Tim Krulec had proven it on many occasions. Obviously, against Spurs away just a couple of weeks ago, or month before that, also with the Dutch national team, he's proven that he's a penalty killer, and that's touching back on the thing that probably plays a role in the opposition's mind.
Yeah,
We would have really had a chance because Man United will then also be thinking, oh, we should really beat Norwich away. We should be winning here. And I think it was the quarterfinals. Or
yeah,
quarterfinals.
Yeah.
So, and I think Maguire scored 119th minute or so in extra time. So we've been really close, and I was really excited about. Okay, if we take this 2 penalties, I think we're going to win it. I think we can make it to the semi-finals. Unfortunately, things didn't go that way, but that was without supporters as well. So who knows what would have happened?
Yeah,
Yeah, there was a crowd.
Could have been 3-0 Norwich against Man United. Imagine that.
At least.
But obviously, we did get relegated, as we touched on, and then the next season was also behind closed doors. What was that season like? Obviously, it would have felt really strange, obviously, having lockdown throughout the whole season, having no fans. Obviously, there was a couple of games here and there where a couple hundred fans were let in, but it must have been strange.
It has been. It has been once in a lifetime season, but obviously not like the first promotion season, but this one, and for different reasons. Because on the one hand, it makes it easier because communication is just easier possible on that pitch. And I think the very thing that I just described that didn't work in our favor in the Prem now worked in our favor in the Championship, because arguably we had the best side, and because there was, for then the underdogs, no support from the stands. They, in most of the games, had just been fallen short because we had more quality. And it's different traveling to Millwall when the stadium is full, or going there when it's not. So those things just play a role as well. And as soon as we know, okay, I think we didn't start great. I think it was 4 points in 4 games, first international breaks, and then we just won 3 games on the spit, and we could know, okay, we're rolling. Here we go. We know how to do it. We'll be able to do it again, and then obviously it's less resistance when the supporters are not there, and when you can just think, okay, no matter where we go, we just bring our game, our quality on the pitch, and the result will take care of itself. And that's how it went. And even though, to me, it didn't feel as good as the first promotion season, probably because first promotion is always different, or probably because the first one was with supporters, or probably because the first one was just not expected, and the second one, in a way, was okay. Norwich go down, they'll bounce straight back up again. But the season was, and we should not forget that we collected 97 points, even 3 more than the first promotion season. So it just showed how good we must have been in that season.
Yeah, like you touched on, how good we've been that season, especially, and I think just one player. Just want to hear your thoughts on that season. I think all Norwich fans think he's probably the most technically gifted player in some of our lifetimes. Is Emi Buendia? How special was he that season?
I think he's every now and then he showed his quality in his first season where he got promoted, but especially in that one. He's done, I think he had 15 goals, 15 assists, and for a winger or sometimes number 10, I mean, he sort of was in between positions, which made it so hard for the opposition to get hold of him. He's just done things on the pitch that are hard to grab, hard to explain for someone who's not as gifted as him. And whenever I'm asked about my best teammate that I ever played with, I say it's Sami Buendia because he just brought so much to our game, and it's not just a player who shows up and turns up in the big games, even if it's yeah, like the cold rainy night at Stoke. He's there, he performs, and he puts a shift in all the time. It's not just that he's there for when you have the ball, but his pressing against the ball, how many balls he wins, how his work rate is, how his pressing helps us to set the tone right from the start. It's just a key factor in a team because he never relied on his technical ability and thought, okay, I'm that good, so I don't need to work against the ball. I don't need to run. He's always worked his socks off and always supported the team. And I think in that very season, everyone's seen how good he is. And I mean, I think his the career he had from there speaks for itself. He's established himself in the Premier League ever since he's now played in the Bundesliga for Leverkusen. So I think uh, whoever scouted Emi Buendia has done a terrific job.
Yeah, I think that the scouts from sort of those 2 seasons when you first joined, Christoph, from your summer when you joined in the summer after, the scouts for well, must have been absolutely incredible and deserve all the praise for bringing yourself and the rest of the players in. Definitely.
Especially because they had to work on a budget as well. They had to work on
Yeah.
a budget. I think the club was not in the most stable position financially, and Daniel Farke and Stuart Weber have been able to turn it around with the players that they have been given the opportunity to sign, and obviously with the player that had been scouted. And also, I mean, we talked about Emmy Lochner, but also Tim Krul was a free agent. Teemu Pukki was a free agent. I think Tim was once declared the best ever free transfer the club has made, and yeah, I think he deserves that title.
I don't think you're far off, Christoph. Don't worry.
Well, I think Tim was really left his mark, and also just by the character he is. I mean, I talked about Grant and how much respect I have for him, but also then Teemu. I mean, he scored goal after goal after goal. He's a national hero in Finland. I think he's records. He's got the most caps, so he's a record national player, team player for them, and also the most goals for Finland. And still, he's always been so down to earth and so humble. And it was just a pleasure and a privilege to be able to spend that much time with these terrific players and human beings, and just sometimes you just appreciate it even a bit more with a bit of distance, which I have had now for the last 3 years, obviously since I left Norwich. But also, I think probably from a supporter's perspective, it could be similar because um, even though we'd obviously not been successful in the Premier League, but the club always had a DNA. You always knew what you were getting. You always knew, okay, this is my team. Those are sort of the key characters in that team. We had team and an idea and an identity, as easy as it is. And I hope Norwich are able to find that again, because ever since Fark has left, I think there's been 3 or 4 different managers now. And I would wish that some of them would last a bit longer again, would be able to create something so that every Norwich supporter can relate to a team, to style of play, and knows this is Norwich, this is what we are, this is who we are. And I hope to be able to see that again in the future for Norwich.
Yeah, I think we all waiting for that to happen as well.
Yeah, as I said, I think with distance, you just appreciate those times a bit more. I think that there'll be a lot of people who will have said, or who will have been, who will have understood or who will have supported the decision to part ways with Farke at the time, because we've just not done well in the Premier League. But with hindsight, obviously, I think a lot of people will regret that as well, because I think he's doing the same thing at Leeds now. He's given the club an identity, and it's good if you have that. I think then, even if you lose every now and then, if you as a supporter can identify with what's going on in your club, in your team, I think you're always more likely to support the team, no matter what happens, because you feel like you can relate to what's happening on the pitch, and you can feel like this is a group of players, this is a staff, this is a style of play, this is a whole culture that you can relate to, and that you enjoy supporting. And if you don't have that, and if a club sometimes is really struggling to find its way, I think that is it's a challenge and it's a tough period. And I think that's what Norwich are going through at the moment, and I just hope that Ben Neppe will find the right personnel for the job. I mean, I follow every now and then who's prospect who could do it, and obviously you still follow it very closely, because it's something that just interests me, and that is at the source of my heart to see what's going on in Norwich, and to hope that it's going well and that they'll have more successful seasons again.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully the new manager issue does get announced soon, and Norwich do have a head coach going into the new season. Just to touch on that second Premier League season, obviously you didn't make as many appearances as the
Yeah.
previous one, but obviously we did change managers, a bit of the way through the season. Dean Smith, what was it like working under Dean Smith?
Um, the first encounter was quite funny, because he walked in and I was on crutches, and I think it was just a couple of days after I've had my surgery, and I knew it was 3 months that I would miss at least. Despite the fact that he knew he wouldn't be able to count on me on the pitch for the next 3 months, it was good. Like, he took the time every other week to talk to me, to just make me feel being part of the group. That definitely helped. Obviously, he had a different approach in terms of his playing philosophy, in terms of his training philosophy, how he set the week up, how he set up the week, how he built up to the games. But it was I liked the experience, because so far I've been playing in England, but I still had a German manager and a German regime and a German routine, but also haven't had that English philosophy and that English structure. Was an experience that I wouldn't want to miss. And yeah, I thought also when I left, I think Norwich started the season quite well. The start was all right, but then it really kicked off, and I think for 10 games they've been unbeaten, and they managed to climb up the table. And then just sometime during November and then December, they just didn't manage to pick up their form again. And then eventually he got sacked. And just was a Boxing Day.
Yeah, I think it was
Yeah, I
just
think, yeah.
after the Luton game. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously, yeah, that was then about half a year after I left, and I've just realistically just worked with him for about 3 or 4 months, because before that I was still in rehab, and I wasn't able to play. But yeah, I was grateful for the time that he'd given me on the pitch. Under him, I've been able to play at Enfield Road, which was still one of the things from, I think, from the top six. Liverpool away was the one that was still missing from the time of Farkas, so I was happy he's given me the opportunity in the FA Cup to play that game. And then, yeah, obviously, it was just about 4 or 5 months, so I can't judge the time too much as a player. But as with everyone at North that I work with, I enjoyed working with them.
Yeah.
Of course.
Mhm.
So obviously you've left Norwich that summer. You've gone back to Germany and joined Darmstadt in the second division in Germany. And you got promoted in your first time of trying. You
Yeah.
must have brought a few tricks back with you from Norwich, I guess.
You could say so, but then again, I have to say, when I came here, I came into a team that had a good spirit and had a good heart, and that was already functioning very well as a team. The season before, Darmstadt finished fourth, and they've been able to keep the core group, and even more than the core group, together. I think I've been the only new signing, or one of the two new signings maybe, who became a regular starter. The other team, that was already functioning. They had a whole, always goalkeepers, like three midfielders, one striker who was always playing. So we had 8 or 9 players who were always starting, and we could always rely on those players. And then when probably one is suspended for a fifth yellow card, or one is injured, and it's just one who has to fill in. He always done his job, and it's easier than when you're making 4 or 5 changes week in, week out. So we just got on a great form, on a great run of form, and I think we've been 21 games unbeaten, and it just sort of, sometimes without knowing, after 20 minutes, you find yourself 2-0 up in the game, and you don't know why and you don't know how, but you just created momentum, and we've just been able to keep it going for as long as we could, and then very unexpectedly for me, we managed to win promotion. But you also had that special feeling about the group that I mentioned in my first promotion season with Norwich, and I think that also came fairly quickly in that promotion season, where you can just sense we've got something special, we're different from other clubs, and probably this season is the season where we can manage to get promoted. And it was just the 5th ever season in the Bundesliga for Darmstadt. So it was a great opportunity, a great experience to be able to win promotion. A bit like the first move of Norwich, second last game of the season, night game at home, managed to win the game, job done, promoted. And then I had my 1 year in the Bundesliga as well. So now, that's why I said, okay, now I'm happy. Played in the Premier League, played in the Bundesliga, and it's just something that I'm very happy to be able to look back onto.
Yeah, absolutely. It must have been a childhood dream come true playing in the Bundesliga. Obviously, relegated at the end of that Bundesliga season, and then obviously injury hits start next season, which is obviously the season that's just been. Yeah, that must have been a really tough time for you, Christoph.
Yeah, I mean the relegation didn't come out of the blue. It was probably probably it's comparable, or maybe even harder to manage to try to survive with Darmstadt in the Bundesliga like it did with Norwich in the Premier League. And it was a season with great experiences, but also with a lot of disappointments. And at the end, we just had to confirm that we were not good enough, nowhere near good enough, and we got rightly so we got relegated. And then we were trying to rebuild in the summer, and I didn't start. I didn't play at the start of the season, and then just after my first appearance in the league, I felt that the week, or even already before the game, I felt there was something not quite right with my knee. But I thought there was no mechanism. There can't be anything wrong with my knee. And then the week after, I had to stop during training 2 times. The knee was just not having it. And then taking a bit of time, and then had a session outside with the rehab coach, and it was just getting worse and worse and worse. And after half an hour, I just told him, "There's no point. There's absolutely no point." So ever since, I've been struggling with knee problems on my left knee, and I think that started here in end of September, mid October, and I have not been able to get back to full fitness again. I was close a couple of times, but then when it starts to go a bit more football specific, not just from straight line running, but then to the outside on the pitch and do more football specific movements, the knees somehow can't cope with it. And this is obviously then a very disappointing end to my season here, and also, at least for now, to my time here. So we've got a couple of days of the season to go, and then on Sunday is our last game. And that's when, that's what's also going to be my last game for Darmstadt, even though I won't be playing. but I'll be on the stand, so I'll get my farewell before the game on the pitch. And then, I'll just try to figure out a way to get my knee back running in the truest of senses, and to manage to get back fit again.
Yeah. So what will be next for you then after leaving Darmstadt?
First of all, I think given my season, there won't be the clubs will not be queuing up for me, and also I think clubs will first of all wait to see if I manage to get back fit again, if I manage to then also stay fit for a longer period of time. Because at the moment, it's something I just can't promise, and I just can't prove, and I need to find some sort of way that works best for me and for my knee to manage to stay fit. So I will give myself a couple of months and hope to find a solution to that problem. And then, me and my agent, we will sort the market and see what's possible, what's available. But in all honesty, I do not see myself getting a new club at the start of pre-season. And also, I think it would also not be the right timing, because by then I can't say for sure that my knee is good and that it will last through trainings or through games. So I think it's going to take a couple of months to make sure the knee is good and it's good for good, and it is able to withstand a lot of tests and a lot of stress. But once that's the case, which I hope will happen sometime later this year, I will then see what options I still got, because I still want to play. I still want to try to make it back on the pitch, because the years I've had, I wouldn't want my career to be ending this way. So therefore, I'll try everything I can to make it back on the pitch.
Yeah. So obviously you come back to Norwich during last season with Mario to watch one of the games. How was that?
Yeah, it was a good experience. That Mario and Steve were there was more of a coincidence than anything, really. Because I talked to Chris Gorham, because I was asking if it's possible to do some co-commentating
Right.
the Millwall home game it was, and he invited me. He said, "Yeah, I'd be happy to have me." And then I think the game 3 days later against, I think it was QPR. I didn't know just until the day before the game that Mario and Stevie would be there as well. So it was fun bumping into them after the game against QPR and having a chat with them. And it's always nice to see familiar faces and to see some of the lads who you've been able to lift trophies with and achieve those things that we did achieve. And on the other hand, it's always good to come back to Kerr Road. It's good to come back to the training centre, to Coney. It's just good to be coming back to the fan city.
I just want to touch on one thing, Christoph, before we end the podcast. There was one moment in very early on in your Norwich career, in your first season, where I think I saw the best tackle I have ever seen. Wolves
I know where
away.
you're going.
You dive in with your head. You put your whole body on the line here. What was going through your head?
I was just desperate to win the ball back after I'd lost at the halfway line. I think Tim Close, no, Mario played it back to me, and I don't know what was going through my head in the first place. But then all of a sudden, I think it was Morgan Gibbs White who was sort of through on goal, and I'm just sprinting back, managed to catch up with him, and then he was twisting, turning, and I found myself slipping, laying on the floor, and I thought just, okay, his touch wasn't perfect. The ball is close to my head whilst I'm laying here, and my head is in that very position. Just tried to tackle it, which is then what happened. I think in the background you can see Grant slipping as well, but he was running back and following his striker, his opponent. So it must have been slippery in that box at the Molyneux, but it was just spur of the moment. I thought, okay, right space, right time, ball right in front of my face, just go for it and tackle it. And well, I think Chris Gorham said Zimmermann just tackled the ball with his head and managed to win it. So he was as confused as anyone was, but it prevented them from scoring the 3-1. And then at the end of the game, Nelson equalized for us. So, wow, happy days.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much for coming on to the podcast, Christoph. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Cheers.